of professional wrestling for decades. He died today after going into cardiac arrest, and Dick Brennan has a look back on his life.
We begin with breaking news that has sent shockwaves across the world of sports entertainment and beyond. Just moments ago, confirmation came from World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, that one of the most recognizable and influential figures in professional wrestling history, Hulk Hogan, has passed away at the age of 71. This news is not just a headline, it's the end of an era for millions of fans who grew up chanting his name, wearing the red and yellow, and living by the mantra of, train, say your prayers, and eat your vitamins. According to initial reports, emergency medical services were dispatched to Hogan's Florida residence earlier today following a distress call. Operators indicated the situation was related to, quote, a cardiac arrest. Despite the efforts of paramedics, Hogan could not be revived. WWE has since issued an official statement confirming his death, expressing deep sorrow and honoring him as a global icon who helped shape modern wrestling into the entertainment juggernaut we know today. From Terry Bollea to Hulkamania, the birth of a legend. Born Terry Gene Bollea on August 11, 1953, in Augusta, Georgia, Hogan's early life was far removed from the glitz and glamour of professional wrestling. Raised in Tampa, Florida, he was a music enthusiast and an aspiring bass guitarist before his destiny shifted. Standing at an imposing 6 feet 7 inches and weighing over 300 pounds in his prime, Hogan was a natural fit for the world of wrestling. But raw size wasn't enough. What set him apart was charisma, the ability to electrify an audience, and the instinct to turn a match into a spectacle. Before Hogan, professional wrestling was largely confined to smoky arenas and late-night television slots, appealing to a niche audience. The storylines were regional, and the stars, while beloved by hardcore fans, rarely crossed into mainstream pop culture. Hogan changed all that. With his signature handlebar mustache, bleach blonde hair, and bandana, he became larger than life, a superhero come to life at a time when America craved heroes. The rise of Hulkamania. Hulk Hogan's meteoric rise began when he signed with Vince McMahon's World Wrestling Federation, WWF, now WWE, in the early 1980s. It was perfect timing. McMahon had a vision to take wrestling national, transforming it from a local attraction into a global entertainment brand. Hogan was his chosen megastar, and together, they would reshape the entire industry. In January 1984, Hogan defeated the Iron Sheik at Madison Square Garden to win his first WWF championship. That night, Hulkamania was born. The term became synonymous with the phenomenon of his popularity. Children wore Hulkamania t-shirts, adults admired his patriotism, and everyone knew his 3 commandments: train hard, say your prayers, and eat your vitamins. Hogan's appeal was more than just muscles and theatrics, it was about hope, resilience, and good triumphing over evil. In an era when America faced economic uncertainty and shifting cultural norms, Hogan was the ultimate babyface, the good guy who fought for what was right. WrestleMania and the mainstream explosion. Perhaps Hogan's greatest contribution to wrestling was his role in the inaugural WrestleMania in 1985. Teaming with Mr. T, he headlined the event in a tag team match against Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff. WrestleMania wasn't just another wrestling card, it was a spectacle, blending sports and entertainment, featuring celebrities like Muhammad Ali and Cyndi Lauper. Hogan was at the center of it all, and his star power ensured that wrestling was no longer confined to late-night cable. It was prime time, pay-per-view, and pop culture gold. From that point forward, Hogan became the face of WWF's golden era. He headlined 8 of the first 9 WrestleManias, battled giants like Andre the Giant in the legendary WrestleMania 3 match, where he body-slammed the 520-pound Andre in front of 93,000 fans at the Pontiac Silverdome, and carried the WWF to unprecedented heights. Crossing over, movies, cartoons, and more. Hogan's influence wasn't limited to the squared circle. He crossed over into mainstream entertainment with roles in movies like Rocky III, as Thunder Lips, Suburban Commando, and No Holds Barred. He starred in television shows, animated series like Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling, and became a household name. By the late 1980s, Hogan wasn't just a wrestler, he was a cultural icon, on lunchboxes, action figures, and video games. His catchphrases, "What you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you?" became part of the American lexicon. The NWO and reinvention. By the mid-1990s, Hogan's superhero image began to lose steam. Fans were craving something edgier, and wrestling was entering the infamous Monday Night Wars between WWF and WCW. In 1996, Hogan shocked the world at WCW's Bash at the Beach by turning heel, becoming a villain, for the first time in over a decade. Aligning with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, he formed the New World Order, NWO, a faction that would dominate WCW programming and redefine wrestling's storytelling landscape. Hollywood Hogan, as he called himself, wore black and white instead of red and yellow. He taunted fans, cheated in matches, and embraced arrogance. This bold move extended his career and made him relevant during wrestling's hottest era. The NWO became a cultural phenomenon, appearing on merchandise, video games, and inspiring legions of imitators. Return to WWE and Hall of Fame induction. When WCW folded in 2001, Hogan eventually returned to WWE, receiving a hero's welcome. His match against The Rock at WrestleMania X8 in 2002 was a defining moment, a clash of generations that had fans on their feet in Toronto's Skydome, proving Hogan's star power had never truly faded. Later, in 2005, Hogan was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, cementing his legacy as one of the greatest performers in wrestling history. Controversies and public struggles. Yet, Hogan's life wasn't without turbulence. Financial troubles, a highly publicized divorce, and health issues plagued his later years. In 2015, Hogan faced a major scandal when leaked recordings surfaced, resulting in his termination from WWE and the removal of his name from company platforms. He issued public apologies, and after years of absence, Hogan was reinstated into the Hall of Fame and returned to WWE programming in a limited capacity. The final chapter. In recent years, Hogan largely stayed out of the limelight, making sporadic appearances at wrestling conventions, charity events, and WWE specials. His health was reportedly declining due to multiple back surgeries and years of physical strain from his wrestling career. Fans often speculated about his well-being, but Hogan maintained a positive demeanor, engaging with followers on social media and sharing motivational messages. Today, those whispers of concern turned into heartbreaking reality. At 71, the man who once seemed indestructible succumbed to a heart attack. Paramedics fought to save him, but the larger-than-life figure who made millions believe in the power of Hulkamania has taken his final bow. A legacy that lives forever. Hulk Hogan didn't just entertain, he inspired. He turned wrestling into a household conversation, bridging generations and transforming the industry into a global spectacle. Without Hogan, there might never have been a WrestleMania, nor the wrestling boom of the 1980s and 1990s. He paved the way for megastars like The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and John Cena. As NBC News' Mark Barb once said in a broadcast, colorful and charismatic, Hulk Hogan will be remembered as a larger-than-life personality and pop culture icon. Those words perfectly encapsulate the man who turned scripted bouts into unforgettable spectacles, who made millions believe in the power of Hulkamania. Breaking news that shook the wrestling world. A wave of shock and disbelief swept through the sports entertainment universe earlier today as breaking news emerged confirming what fans around the globe had long dreaded but never truly prepared for. The iconic figure who transformed professional wrestling from a niche attraction into a mainstream cultural phenomenon, Hulk Hogan, has died at the age of 71. This devastating announcement was confirmed by World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, in an official statement released within the last hour, sending ripples through social media and igniting a storm of tributes and conversations across the internet. The reports first surfaced in the early afternoon when emergency medical services were dispatched to
Wrestling
Hogan's
icon
Florida
Hulk
residence
Hogan, who
following a
rocketed to
distress
fame in
call.
the 1980s, in the
According
ring
to sources
transforming the
familiar with
wrestling industry.
situation, operators cited a cardiac-related emergency as the primary reason for the urgent response. Despite their efforts, the legendary performer, born Terry Jean Bollea, could not be revived. While further medical details remain undisclosed at this time, WWE's confirmation leaves no doubt, one of the most recognizable faces in the history of sports entertainment has left us. The man who defined an era. To understand the gravity of this loss, one must step back and appreciate just how monumental Hulk Hogan's influence truly was. Long before WWE became the multi-billion-dollar global juggernaut it is today, the wrestling industry operated largely within regional territories, appealing to a relatively small, loyal fan base. That all changed when Vince McMahon, an ambitious promoter with a vision for national expansion, placed his bets on one charismatic powerhouse, Hulk Hogan. Standing at an imposing 6'7" and tipping the scales at nearly 300 pounds, Hogan was a spectacle unto himself. But it wasn't just his physical presence that made him larger than life, it was the entire package. The handlebar mustache, the ripped yellow and red ring gear, the bandana, the raspy yet electrifying promos, and above all, his undeniable charisma made him a superhero come to life. To millions of kids growing up in the 1980s, Hulk Hogan wasn't just a wrestler, he was a moral compass preaching the virtues of saying your prayers, eating your vitamins, and believing in yourself. This was the genesis of Hulkamania, a cultural phenomenon that swept across America and far beyond. From the ring to the silver screen. Hogan's rise to superstardom coincided with WWE's evolution into a sports entertainment empire. He headlined the first 9 WrestleMania events, including the inaugural WrestleMania in 1985, a gamble by Vince McMahon that could have sunk the company had it failed. Instead, it was an astronomical success, catapulting WWE and Hogan into mainstream relevance. Hogan's matches weren't just athletic contests, they were morality plays. His epic showdown against Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3, where he famously body-slammed the 520-pound Colossus before a record-breaking crowd of over 93,000 at the Pontiac Silverdome, remains one of the most replayed moments in wrestling history. But Hogan's ambitions didn't end in the squared circle. He made the leap to Hollywood, starring in films like No Holds Barred and appearing in television shows, commercials, and even cartoons. While his acting career never quite reached the same legendary heights as his wrestling tenure, it reinforced his image as a crossover star, a man who could draw crowds in arenas and theaters alike. For a generation of fans, Hogan was everywhere, on lunchboxes, action figures, posters, and in the hearts of anyone who ever flexed their arms and shouted, "What you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you?" Controversies and comebacks. Of course, no life as public as Hogan's is without its share of turbulence. His career faced ups and downs, some scripted, others painfully real. In the early 1990s, his departure from WWE amid steroid scandal investigations made headlines, and many speculated that his era had ended. Yet Hogan reinvented himself spectacularly in 1996 when he shocked the world by turning heel and joining the New World Order, NWO, in World Championship Wrestling, WCW. This heel turn revitalized his career, making him the centerpiece of the infamous Monday Night Wars between WWE and WCW and proving that Hulk Hogan could evolve with the times. Personal controversies later in life, including a high-profile divorce, lawsuits, and leaked recordings, threatened to overshadow his legacy. For a time, WWE even distanced itself from him, removing his name from their Hall of Fame listings. Yet, through it all, Hogan's contributions to the industry remained undeniable. Over time, bridges were rebuilt, and Hogan once again appeared on WWE programming, embraced by fans who couldn't ignore the indelible mark he had left on professional wrestling. The final years and health struggles. In recent years, Hogan's public appearances had grown increasingly rare, fueling speculation about his health. The man who once epitomized strength and vitality had undergone numerous surgeries, particularly on his back and hips, battle scars from decades of grueling physical performance. In interviews, Hogan often spoke candidly about his health challenges, admitting that his body bore the cost of being larger than life. Still, few imagined the end would come so suddenly. While he remained active on social media and occasionally popped up in nostalgia-driven WWE segments, Hogan largely retreated from the relentless spotlight that once defined him. The shockwaves of today's news. News of Hogan's passing has sent an immediate and profound shockwave through the wrestling community and the broader world of entertainment. Social media platforms were instantly flooded with tributes from fans, fellow wrestlers, celebrities, and public figures. WWE superstars, past and present, shared heartfelt messages, recounting personal anecdotes of Hogan's influence and generosity. "He made us believe in heroes," wrote one former champion. Another tweet simply read, "End of an era." Major news outlets broke into programming to deliver the story, underscoring the mainstream significance of Hogan's name. ESPN, CNN, BBC, and countless others have all carried the headline, while wrestling-themed podcasts and YouTube channels scrambled to go live with reaction streams. Fans worldwide are holding impromptu vigils, donning yellow and red gear as they share their favorite Hulk Hogan moments. For many, this isn't just the death of a man, it feels like the closing chapter of a golden age of wrestling. A legacy etched in pop culture. What makes Hulk Hogan's passing so impactful is not merely the loss of a sports entertainer but the departure of a cultural icon who transcended his profession. Hogan was instrumental in shaping the WWE brand into a global entertainment powerhouse. Without Hulkamania, there might not have been a WrestleMania boom, nor the mainstream embrace of wrestling as family-friendly entertainment in the 1980s. Hogan's influence extended beyond the ring and into music, film, merchandising, and even language. Phrases like "brother" and "Hulkamania" became part of everyday vocabulary for millions. His larger-than-life persona inspired countless imitators and successors, from The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin to John Cena. But as many have noted today, there will never be another Hulk Hogan. He wasn't just part of wrestling history, he was wrestling history. Fans reflect on a hero. As tributes pour in, fans are reflecting not just on Hogan's career highlights but on the emotional connection he fostered. For those who grew up in the 1980s and 1990s, Hogan was more than a performer, he was a symbol of hope and perseverance. His simple, wholesome slogans resonated with children and parents alike, making him a rare figure who appealed across generations. That bond is evident in the sheer outpouring of grief and nostalgia blanketing the internet today. What happens next? While details regarding memorial services have yet to be announced, it's almost certain that WWE will produce an elaborate tribute in Hogan's honor. Expect video packages chronicling his legendary moments, on-screen dedications during live programming, and perhaps a special Hall of Fame recognition. It wouldn't be surprising if future WrestleMania events forever reserve a segment to honor his memory. After all, without Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania as we know it might never have existed. Closing thoughts, the end of an era. In the history of professional wrestling, few figures have cast as long and enduring a shadow as Hulk Hogan. More than a superstar, more than an icon, Hogan was a cultural force, an institution that transcended the squared circle and became a household name across the globe. He wasn't merely a performer, he was the embodiment of a larger-than-life persona that defined an entire generation of sports entertainment. Hulk Hogan didn't just wrestle, he revolutionized the business. At a time when professional wrestling was viewed as a niche attraction, Hogan stepped into the spotlight and turned it into a global spectacle. His charisma, towering physique, and unmistakable persona elevated wrestling from smoky arenas into the mainstream consciousness. He made wrestling cool. He made it family entertainment. He became a symbol of strength, perseverance, and showmanship, values that resonated with millions of fans around the world. From his iconic red and yellow attire to the thunderous roar of "Whatcha Gonna Do, Brother," Hogan's presence was magnetic. He wasn't simply performing matches, he was creating moments that would live forever. Whether it was slamming the seemingly unstoppable Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3 or electrifying crowds with his trademark poses, Hogan embodied the magic of wrestling's golden era. Hulkamania wasn't just a catchphrase, it was a cultural phenomenon. News of his passing marks more than the loss of a legendary wrestler, it feels like the closing of a chapter in entertainment history. For decades, Hogan stood as a beacon for fans, a hero who urged us to say our prayers and take our vitamins. Now, as the wrestling world and millions of his fans mourn his departure, a sense of collective nostalgia and gratitude fills the air. Social media timelines are flooded with tributes, clips of his greatest moments, and heartfelt messages from those who grew up watching him conquer the squared circle. And yet, even in death, Hogan's influence remains immortal. Hulkamania is not something that fades, it's a spirit that lives on in every wrestler who laces up their boots, every fan who cheers from the stands, and every child who once flexed their muscles in front of the mirror pretending to be the Hulkster. His legacy is etched into the very foundation of wrestling, and his impact will continue to inspire for generations to come. As the world comes to terms with this profound loss, one question lingers, echoing through arenas, living rooms, and hearts everywhere: what you gonna do, when the world runs without you? Hulk Hogan may be gone, but the phenomenon he created, Hulkamania, will never die. It will continue to live, breathe, and roar as long as fans remember the man who made wrestling larger than life. Rest in power, Hulk Hogan. Your legend will run wild forever.